This is a lesson on copying formulas, as well as something called an absolute reference. First, copying formulas. I'm going to insert a formula here. We've got employees, we've got their production numbers, and what we're going to do, we're going to pay them $4.52 for each piece that they produced. So we're going to go with an equal to start the formula, and we're going to type 4.52, and then times. And rather than type the number, once again, we're just going to click on that B3. And by clicking on it, it enters the cell B3 in there, and I can hit enter. So now this person's earning $931.12 for that production. Once again, I can use my fill handle to copy that formula down, but let me explain what's going to happen. If I copy a label, it copies it exactly the way that it was, no changes at all. However, when you copy a formula, Excel automatically assumes that whatever direction you're copying in, every cell in the formula needs to move in that direction. So right now I've only got one cell here, and it's B3. So if I copy this down, B3 automatically goes down by 1, and 1 down from B3 is B4. So it's a really big assumption, which works out really well most of the time. If I were to copy this formula this way, it really wouldn't do me any good, because now what would happen is B3 would turn into C3, and I'd get something like this, which is totally inappropriate in this particular case. What I wanted to do is I wanted to copy this way. So it's a good idea when you first start using Excel to ask yourself the question, when I copy this down, what's going to happen to my formula? Right? So when I copy this cell, what's going to happen to my formula? If you're copying down, your cells will move down. So B3 will turn into B4 to B5 to B6. And if that's okay, then just continue to do that. I'm going to carry on with this example. Here, we've got a situation where, let's say this week we're paying people a $100 bonus. Okay? So if you work this week, you get a bonus of $100. Here, I would have a formula once again that would say equal whatever their production wage is plus whatever the bonus happens to be, which is B16. Now, if you're paying attention and you're asking yourself the question, what happens to this formula if I copy it down? Well, C3 will turn into C4, which is perfect. However, B16 will turn into B17 and then B18, and there's nothing in those cells. So effectively, the only person who's going to get a bonus here is employee number 1. Okay, that's not right. I want the other people to get a bonus. So when you have a situation like this where you don't want B16 to change, lock in the letter or the number depending on which one's going to move or change. In this case, B is not going to change to C. It's 16 that's going to change to 17. So you can lock in the 16, and the symbol they've chose is the $sign. So I'm going to just type in a $sign there, and now I've locked in this B16. Okay, so it won't go down to 17. C3 is still going to change to C4 to C5 to C6, but that 16 is going to stay locked in, and everybody that's supposed to get a bonus is going to get a bonus. We call that an absolute reference. You don't need to memorize the name, but just understand that sometimes when you're copying a formula, you don't necessarily want each cell to move or to change, and sometimes you need to lock them in. If you're copying down, lock in the number. If you're copying sideways, you'll have to lock in the number, and you lock it in by putting the $sign in front of it.